Hi everybody, it's Hannah over at Heyl Truck Lines. Today, Chris Josten, our Estherville, Iowa terminal manager, is going to be showing you how to properly conduct a pre-trip inspection on both a truck and a trailer. As always, if you are not already subscribed, be sure to click the red button below and like this video.
Hi guys, Chris with Heyl Truck Lines again. Today we're going to do a walk around inspection on our truck, pre-trip inspection. Now before I ever start a pre-trip, I make sure I have my gloves on and I make sure I have a flashlight in hand, even if it's a bright day like it is today in our shop. So I start my inspection by looking underneath the cab and looking underneath our truck here and seeing if there's anything leaking, if there's any hanging hoses, anything dangling, did I run over something in the road? I'm also making sure that my suspension is sitting level and I don't see anything around my tires or anything like that. Then I'm gonna look up and I'm gonna check my deer guard here. I'm gonna check my bumper, my grill. I'm gonna check my mirrors. And I'm gonna look up and I'm gonna check my my windshield, my marker lights, and the top of my cab to make sure I don't see any body damage. My windshield looks good. My cameras look good, my outward facing cameras. And I also wanna double check and make sure that this box right here is clean of any debris or anything like that. This is part of our collision mitigation system. If there's any debris or anything on that, it could cause it to malfunction. Now that I've checked this all out, what I would do is I would drop my deer guard and I'm gonna open my hood and I'll check underneath the hood. Now, when I do a pre-trip inspection, I always start and stop in the same place. I usually start, like I said, right in front of the truck. I pop my hood and then I start here. I want to be checking everything. I want to check my fuel filters. I want to check my hoses, my tanks, check my fluid levels. I like to put my hands on everything. If I know there's a clamp, I like to touch it, make sure everything is tight. That way nothing surprises me. Grab your steering gear. Check everything out. Here's where the flashlight comes in handy. Now I can turn that flashlight on and I can focus on what I'm looking at. When I reach down, I can check my steering knuckles, my pitman arm, my brakes, all of this stuff. Now obviously I'm not going through a full pre-trip inspection right now. I'm just showing you the basics, the walk around, what we want to do every day. One of the biggest things that we need to really pay attention to is our tires. Our tires are our lifeblood. They're our connection to the road, right? So check your tires. Look for any uneven tire wear. Check your lugs. Make sure they're all tight. You don't see any rust around them. You don't see anything leaking from them. There's no cracks in between on the aluminum. I touch every lug. Make sure you do that. And we want to check all the way around. Look for any pitting or anything like that. I check everything up here. Check all my air hoses, check my lines. Everything seems to be in good condition. I shine my flashlight through here and I check my water pump, my belts, the front of my engine, make sure there's no leaks on the front. Check my oil pan, my springs, my U-bolts. All of that looks good. As I move along, I'm checking my wipers. I can see my wipers. They look to be in pretty decent condition. Make sure everything is tight. Check my mirrors. Check my door. Make sure it operates properly. Check my seal on my door. Close that. Here I pop my battery box and I'm going to inspect in here, make sure everything looks good. And this is also on these Freightliners where our drain valves are for our air tanks. We got a set down here on this side. There's a couple cables down over here. I don't know if you guys can hear that or not, but also on our other side over here, we got another set. Make sure you drain them all. And I usually pull on them until I don't hear any moisture anymore. Once you've done that, let go of it. Everything looks good under there. Close your box. We're checking our steps here, make sure everything is tight. We move back here. Now we're gonna check our def. Our def cap is on, it's tight, tank looks good. Our side panel is good. Now in this compartment on our trucks, we have our fire extinguisher inside here. We also have our triangles. Part of your pre-trip inspection is inspecting your triangles. Are they in good shape? Are they all there? If you have a breakdown on the side of the road, you need to make sure you have them. We also need to be making sure that our fire extinguisher is fully charged and it's current. Put that back in there. It's very important that when you have this mounted in here, that it is firmly latched, does not move, and also that there is nothing covering or blocking that fire extinguisher. If there's anything covering or blocking that fire extinguisher, that could get you in trouble with the DOT, and nobody wants that, right? Make sure you get this closed. Checking my windows here, my seals. We move back here. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky. There's a whole lot of stuff to check back here. I want to check my tanks. I can't see my tanks from the side here anymore due to our skirts. So I got to look from the side inside here and make sure the saddles are good. Make sure the brackets are all good. Make sure my caps are on and tight. I want to check all my hoses. So what I do is I make sure I don't have air going to my trailer, and I pull out my glad hands and I check that seal. That seal looks good. While I'm checking this seal here, I'm also checking this seal here. If that was worn in any way, I would take it out and I would replace it. Put that one back on. Now I'm gonna pull out my light cable, and I'm gonna check to make sure there's no moisture. Everything is good, looks nice. You notice when I pulled that out, guys, I did not grab it by the cord here. If you grab it by the cord here and jerk on it, what happens is it gets loose inside this end, and that causes grounding issues, causes your lights to flicker, and could potentially mess with your ABS, things like that. I make sure there's no moisture on here, and I put it back in. Then I pull my other airline out. Once again, I'm checking that glad hand, make sure that seal's good, my hose is good, my glad hand over here on the trailer side is good, looks nice, no cracks, no abrasions, nothing else. Now what I do is I actually climb in here and I inspect my hose. I make sure that my hose isn't touching anywhere. It can't be riding on this deck plate, can't be riding on your frame rail, can't be riding on your fender, can't be touching anywhere metal. If it does, that creates an abrasion and that could cause you to get an air leak or a DOT violation. Now I put my hands on my hoses every day and I look at them, because with this plastic sheathing on there, that plastic sheathing itself could also cause an abrasion. That's why I like to really double check and make sure that we don't have any issues. It's also very important to make sure that our electrical cable is plugged into the back of the tractor nice and tight, otherwise that'll cause some light issues as well. We check our air lines here, like I said, our tanks. We want to check our airbags, our shocks. Our drive line is under there. We see that. As we go along, I'm going to check my fender. Now, before I move down, I also look down in between my tires. I look for rocks, bricks, anything else that got wedged in between my tires. If I go back here, I check my brakes, check my frame rail, check my shocks, all the parts of my suspension. I'm also checking the apron on the bottom side of my trailer. I'm checking my fifth wheel plate. I'm making sure that my latch is fully engaged on my fifth wheel plate, right where my light is shining right now. If not, I could potentially drop this trailer. I check under my rear end, my drive line, everything on the back side that I can see from here. Now, one thing I just noticed as I'm doing this is I have a chain box in my frame rail, and that's unlatched. So that's something that I would go ahead and fix right now. So that's latched again, we're good to go. Now, like I said before, we want to check our tires. We want to be very good on our tires, check our lug nuts, everything else, make sure everything is good, and also check the nuts on the end of your hub here. That's very, very important to do, guys. And we want to be checking for leaks. We want to be checking for cracks. We want to be checking for anything of that nature. We want to look for any cuts in the side of our tires. If we have any cuts in the side of our tires, that could cause a blowout while going down the road. Now, as I'm moving along, I'm also looking up and down the side of my trailer. I'm checking for any damage, such as this here. You see this scrape here? Some driver at a truck stop or a shipper, receiver, something like that, got it a little close to us as he was backing in and scraped the side here. So I want to check that damage out. That's something that I would mark on my pre-trip inspection as body damage. Now I'm going to come here, I'm going to check these tires as well. Same thing, check my lug nuts, check my hub. I'm going to look underneath there. I'm going to check my fifth wheel plate. Now, this fifth wheel plate is fixed. We don't have a sliding fifth wheel on this truck, it's fixed. So that takes out some of the harder work that I'd have to do with the jaws and things. But I still have to check the mounting on there. I want to check those nuts and make sure all those nuts and bolts are nice and tight. If they're loose, I can spin them, or there's a shadow that's not supposed to be there, or a clean spot that's not supposed to be there, I need to fix it, because the last thing we want is to be pulling a trailer with a loose fifth wheel. Nobody wants to see a trailer go rolling down the road, right? Okay, now I'm gonna move back a little farther. I'm still checking the side rails here, checking the side of my trailer, looking at my landing gear, looking at my mud flap. Now, here's a very important part, guys. As soon as you get back here, I realize we already checked our jaw there, our lever to make sure it was closed and latched. You still wanna crawl under here, and you still want to check the jaws underneath here. To do that, you slide underneath here and you shine your flashlight up inside, and you'll see that the jaws are nice and tight. This also gives me an opportunity to look down my frame rail again, look in between my tires, look at my airbags, my rear ends on both sides. Everything looks good. And then I spin around and I check my cross members on my trailer here, on my landing gear. I check my bar on my landing gear that connects the two sides together to go up and down here. I check my reefer tank and the saddles and everything on there, check my lines, make sure everything's good. And I'm looking at all my cross members all the way down that trailer to make sure nothing's bent, broken, loose, or missing. Checking my skirts on the side, same thing. Okay, now we're gonna move on down farther. We're gonna check our reefer tank. We're gonna check our reefer cap, make sure our cap is on, check our lights. Now right now I don't have my lights turned on. Normally I'd have my lights on. We'll get to that here in just a second. So I'm gonna keep looking up and down the side of my trailer. No damage. Once I get to my rear axles, now there's a nice gap in here between my skirt and my trailer tandems. I'm gonna look under here, and one of the first things I wanna check is to make sure that the spring holding my hoses for my slider is not missing or broken, because I sure don't want those hoses dragging on the ground, right? So I'm gonna inspect under here. I'm also gonna check my spare tire mount and make sure that's good to go. I'll step back and I'll look at my slider rail. Everything looks good there. I'm checking out my tires here, checking my tread on my tires, checking for any uneven wear. I'm looking underneath here at my suspension, my airbags, my brakes. I'm looking between my tires for rocks. I'm making sure all 4 of my pins are engaged. If you remember from a previous video, we talked about just how important that is. Move back to this axle, same thing. Tires, I want to check my hubs, make sure I got oil in. We got a good level of oil in both of them. Make sure I'm not leaking anywhere. And see, this again is the reason why I use a flashlight, because just looking at that right now, it's hard to see if there's any oil in or not. But if I take my flashlight and I go like that, now we can see. Work my way back to the end here. I'm checking my mud flaps again, making sure they're on, they're tight. Now I got plenty of room back here. I'm a bigger guy, I need some room, right? So I'm gonna go underneath here and I'm gonna check the bottom side and the back side, and I'm gonna look up. Check all my airbags, check my brakes, check my tires, check my frame, check my slider. Everything's in good condition. Once I've done that, move out, check my hook. We'll come back here, check my ICC bumper, check my license plate. You don't want to be driving down the road missing your license plate, guys. Make sure that's on there when you're doing your pre-trip inspection. Check all your hinges. Check your handles and your latches on your doors. Check your seal cover. Okay, now this is an empty trailer, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna open it up. Remember what I said before? Keep a good handle on this door in case of the wind or something else. Now I'm gonna go ahead and open this up. Latch it on the side there so I can inspect the inside of my trailer. The other thing I'm doing is I'm inspecting the seals on my doors. That's very important. That trailer door has got the seal on a refrigerated trailer. Otherwise, we could damage some product or not hold temp. Okay, I'll do the same on the other side here. Make sure everything opens up the way it's supposed to. Sorry about that. Now I'm gonna come inside here and we're gonna look at this. Now what I'm inspecting on the inside of this trailer is, first off, I'm making sure it's clean. Now I'm checking the sidewalls of my trailer. Do my sidewalls look good? Do I see any holes, cracks, rub marks, anything else? I'm looking at my E-track. Is my E-track all banged up? Is it falling down? I'm checking my chute. That chute needs to be in good condition. It can't be hanging down any. It can't have any cuts, tears, or missing any section. Because if it does, we're gonna have cold spots or warm spots with the product, and we could have a claim because of it. I'm also gonna check my bulkhead all the way up to the front of the trailer to make sure that that's in good condition as well. Once I've checked everything, I make sure it's all good. Now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna close it up. Once again, keep a good handle on it. You don't want this thing to swing and hit you in the face or knock you over or anything else. Make sure you get it latched. Anytime you're closing these trailer doors, you want to make sure you got the latch at the bottom and at the top, okay? Don't have it just latched on one side or the other. Now we'll come get this door. Okay, now that door is latched properly. If we notice up there, it's latched top, it's latched in the bottom, it's latched in the middle. Now, if this is a loaded trailer, I would have my seal and my padlock on here. I'm gonna check my lights, I'm gonna check my bumper. Once again, check my hinges. Now we're gonna work back up this side of the trailer And we're gonna check the same things on this side of the trailer and this side of the tractor that we checked on the other side. So we're gonna look for damage. We're gonna check our mud flaps. Now, I've already crawled underneath there, so I know everything is good underneath there on this side. So I'm gonna come up here, check my hoses, check my lugs, check my hubs. Everything is good. Check my tires. Everything's good there. Now I'm gonna peek my head in between there, and I'm gonna double check that there's nothing caught in between my tires here. We're in good shape there. This tire, I'm gonna do the same thing. Everything is good to go. No uneven tire wear. We're gonna look up and down our sides. Check our lights, make sure that's on. Check our skirts. Now in the winter time, when it's cold and snowy out, I like to just go ahead and kick my skirt just like that. That way, if there's any snow built up on the inside, that'll fall off and we'll lose some weight, and we have less chance of it falling off as we're driving down the road and hitting an unsuspecting motorist. Check our landing gear on this side, make sure that's all good. That all looks nice. Checking all our cross members, mud flap. Now we're gonna check our tires, hubs, wheels on this side. Go look in between them again. Once again, I'm checking my nuts and my bolts there on my fifth wheel plate. Make sure those are all good. Same on this one. That's good. Check my quarter fender. Now we're at my APU. What I'm gonna do on my APU right now is I'm just gonna pop this cover here. And I'm gonna visually inspect the inside there. I'm gonna check my belts. I'm gonna check my filters, make sure my switch is in the on position. That's very important. And see if I see any leaks or anything else. Now on these newer trucks with these extended skirts, it's a little harder to do a pre-trip inspection on your APU unit here, but it can be done. Now one important thing to do is make sure we're checking the oil on this thing. This uses the same oil as our truck does. And we have some spare oil in the side there. So pull your dipstick out, take a look at it. There we go, we're nice and full, nice and clean. Put that back in there, close this thing up. Now, important thing to remember about this APU too, guys, is this APU shares coolant, battery power, and fuel with your tractor. So if you spring a leak, like say on your water pump on your APU here, you could potentially lose all the coolant for your tractor as well. So it's a good idea on whatever truck you're in, if you have an APU such as this one, to make sure you know where that shutoff is at. We're gonna work our way up here. Check our fuel again on this side. Everything's good. Windows. Check our mirrors. Everything's good. Check our doors. Check our seals. Everything operates the way it should. Check our steps. Come back up here. Check our tires. Everything's good there. Now, something I didn't mention earlier, but I probably should have, is if you find little rocks like that in your tire, that's a good idea to go ahead and pull that out. Okay? It probably won't hurt anything, but it might come loose and hit a windshield of a passing motorist or something like that, or it could get wedged in and potentially damage the tread of your tire. So we want to avoid any situations like that we possibly can. Check my coolant here. Once again, on this side, I'm touching everything, guys. Making sure I know that it's tight. We're good to go. All these clamps, that's all good. Checking my brakes, checking my springs, checking my shocks, checking my dryer. It all looks good. Checking my hinges, checking my shocks for my hood, checking my hoses up here, checking my belts. Now, this side, I can actually check the tension on my belt. Right there, and this one's good. Now I'm gonna move up, checking my hood again. At this point, I can close my hood, close my deer guard, then I could start the truck up, build up air, turn my lights on, and then listen for leaks and look, check all my lights, make sure all my lights are working, all my turn signals, brake lights, things like that are working. By doing it that way, I know I've checked everything else, and it gives me a chance to focus a little bit better on everything. Don't like getting grease in my truck, guys. Okay, I have air built up to my truck now. I'm at 120 PSI. I have air pushed to my trailer so I can listen for any leaks back there. So now I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna hop out and I'm gonna check my lights. As you can see, my lights are flashing. Now our new trucks, every one of our new trucks has a light pre-trip switch on it. So I simply press the switch and it'll cycle through my high beams, my low beams, my turn signals, my hazards, my brake lights, all of those different systems there. So it's not like the old days where you would have to turn your left blinker on, walk around the truck, turn your right blinker on, walk around the truck, figure out a way to get your brake lights to come on, walk around the truck. Now, all we have to do is flip a switch. Start at the front of my truck. As we can see, this is going through all my lights, high beams, low beams, marker lights, turn signals, hazards, all of that. Then I can walk down the side of my truck. I see my lights here. We'll have these flash. We walk down our trailer, and this truck, our Freightliners, they even shine the lights on the back of the cab, your utility lights that you have back there so you can see like when you're working on your trailer or something. Come back here. Our lights should be flashing here. Our lights should be flashing up here. There they go. Come all the way to the back. We're checking our turn signals, we're checking our brake lights, we're checking our marker lights. We also want to make sure that you put your hand under there and check your license plate light, because it can be kind of hard to see that light sometimes. Walk our way up the other side. Now, as I'm here, I'm listening. Can I hear an air leak? Because I do have air to my trailer. My brakes are released on my trailer. So if I had an air leak, I should be able to hear it right now. Once again, check our lights here, check our lights here. Now, if we look underneath here, we can also see that our backup light and our brake lights and our tail lights are also working underneath there as well. We get back up to the front of our truck. Once again, double check all our lights, make sure everything is working. Now that I know all my lights are working, I can go ahead and I can hop in there and I can flip that switch and shut that test off. So that, guys, that's a basic walk around. Now I realize I didn't go through and I didn't point everything out, everything we should touch or things like that. What I did here, guys, is give you a real general what we should do. Every day you should be popping that hood. This is gonna keep you from breaking down on the road. As you guys know, this truck, driving is what makes you money. It doesn't make you money when you're parked on the side of the road waiting for breakdown. And lots of times, something that we catch in a pre-trip inspection is the difference between making money that day and being broke down at the dealership. That being said, do your pre-trips, guys. Thanks.